City Council to order for March 9th, 2026. And we have just adjourned from closed session. So, Attorney, if you could report out, please.
Yeah, no reportable action. That is all.
Thank you. And I'll go through the roll call. Norm Zazula.
Here.
John Pespisa. Here. Carol Engelhardt.
Here.
Greg Stepler.
Here.
And Brian Bergman's here. And please stand for the flag salute. And we have one presentation tonight, Twenty Hill Habitat Preservation Authority, Citizens Technical Advisory Committee, and Vector Control. So, Kathy Howen.
It's been a while. So good evening, Mayor Bergman, members of the council, staff, and citizens of La Habra Heights. I am Kathy Howen, along with Adam Nazaroff, are appointed by the City Council to represent La Habra Heights in the the Puente Hills Habitat Citizens Technical Advisory Committee, or CTAC. Adam is the chair and I'm the liaison to the board. I just wanted to shout out that CTAC still has a vacancy for a La Habra Heights position and is looking for another individual to represent La Habra Heights. Being on CTAC is a great way to contribute to the direction of how the Habitat handles local issues in the open spaces or the wildlife preserve in La Habra Heights. The Habitat Authority conducted extra fuel clearance this winter and plans to do more fuel clearance this coming winter because of the RMC grant. All clearance areas have been mapped in partnership with the La Habra Heights Fire Department over the years to target and protect homes that are adjacent to the Habitat Authority's open space. Also, a preserve-wide vegetation map using grant funds from the Rivers and Mountains Conservancy is being prepared. It will be used in a fuel modeling project so the Habitat can prioritize work areas. In the last week of February, trail repairs were done in the Powder Canyon trailhead. And by the way, the California arborist is still in the process of doing the winter clearance this past week and this week, just so you know. And switching gears, I wanted to talk to you a bit about the budget of the Habitat. And there are similarities to the La Habra Heights budget. First of all, for the city, our main income source for general operations is through our property tax. For anything extra, we need to reach out for grants and other sources of income. While the Habitat had survived on grants, an unstable source to run their operations. So Measure PH will help in making sure the minimal backbone items will be covered. And the Habitat still needs to find other income sources to add any extra services not included in the measure. Now, I would like to talk a bit about grants. The administrative management of grants is very labor intensive, and I'm sure that the city staff will agree with me on that. And you were made aware of the Cal Fire grant that was granted to the Habitat that was targeted for La Hacienda Heights and Whittier. And La Habra Heights was not included for two reasons. The first is that the Habitat Authority already had contractors in place for Whittier and Hacienda Heights and a good cost estimates. The La Habra Heights contract for fuel clearance was not in place yet. In fact, it's in the process of renewal, and the costs were unknown. So the Habitat did not want to guess what the costs would be and run into trouble with not being able to fulfill the grant obligations, because the state is very stringent about that. Administering grants is a lot of work, and to keep it simple on staff with the current workload, the Habitat only applied for Whittier and Hacienda Heights, knowing that there was adequate funding for all areas regardless if we were successful in being awarded the grant. All fuel clearance costs are already covered in the fiscal year 2025 budget. The Cal Fire grant was a happy surprise. So it's better to get some money than none at all, right? Rest assured there is money available for La Habra Heights. There is an RMC grant in place to cover the second round of trimming and cleanup in La Harbor Heights this winter and next. Money from Measure PH has already been budgeted for the fuel clearance work, and it was approved by the board last June. And if anything needs to be cleared in La Harbor Heights or anywhere else, it will be done. And changing gears a bit, activities have started again. So get in shape with the Habitat's 10,000 step hike, and that's led by the docents Bruce and Rick. And this is a great way to boost your fitness, enjoy the outdoors, and connect with fellow hikers. The meeting location is at the Black Walnut Trail entrance along Fullerton Road in Powder Canyon. So check on the website habitatauthority.org to see the times to meet. Then on April 18th, there's an Earth Day hike starting at 9 a.m. at the Hacienda Hills Trailhead. And on May 2nd, I should say, there'll be a flowers hike starting at 9 a.m. at the Hacienda Hills Trailhead. So for more information, you can reach out to Adam or myself or visit the website habitatauthority.org. And are there any questions? Yes.
I wasn't, you said an RNC grant? Or
Yeah,
how much money is available? You referenced RNC and then apparently another. How much money is available for clearing in La Habra Heights, if you happen to know?
I can find out for you.
Okay.
The RMC grant. I know that that was mostly going to La Harbor Heights, but I could get that.
Thanks.
Can email it to you this evening.
Any other questions of Catherine? Very good. Thank you very much.
And you want the vector control?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, vector control.
I'm sorry. It's so long. It's been a while. So the Southern California, we've had unseasonably warm temperatures, so unfortunately that means mosquitoes are staying relatively active. And the staff has been really busy treating sources and residents calling in with requests for service in higher than normal numbers considering the season. And thus, just like during January, the field staff has not been able to catch much of a break from mosquito control activities. We've had no West Nile virus human cases reported within the district boundaries in January, and there were 2 travel-related dengue virus cases reported. The sterile insect technique, the SIT collaborative work continues with Orange County and Mosquito Mate, and at this time, they are assessing that program, looking at the efficacy and the efficiency. And so stay tuned. It's looking pretty good, to be honest with you. So remember, if you're being a 5-star restaurant for these mosquitoes, you can call Vector Control, the Greater Los Angeles Vector Control District, to come out and help find the source of the mosquitoes and treat the area at no extra cost to you. You know, take advantage of this service. Your health is important because mosquitoes do carry diseases that could really cause damage to your life, your health, and everything. And for more information, visit their website at glamosquito.org, or you can call Greater Los Angeles Vector Control District. So, I also want to let you know that there have been people in La Harbor Heights who did get mosquito fish, and they've actually seen a change where they've had a reduction in problems with mosquitoes around their ponds that they put them in, just so you know.
Very good. Thank you, Catherine. Okay, with that, we'll move into public comments. Cristobal Garcia.
Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing? Great. Okay, so I'm speaking on agenda number 18. So there is going to be, oh yeah, I'll let you guys turn your pages to that. On the herbicide spray at the city-owned vacant parcel. So the negative effects of the glyphosate, that's what I'm guessing that you guys are using for the herbicide spray. It actually causes acute side effects in skin, eye irritation, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, chronic long-term linked to more severe issues. So if we affect and we distribute the herbicide to the ecosystem, it affects the whole supply chain for all the animals, including the earthworms, the pollinators, and the soil health itself. And along with that, if it rains, the water from all the water that's coming down from that specific area can go to the ocean. And if you're concerned about the vermin, well, we also have coyotes in La Habra Heights, and we also have hawks and other types of animals that can take care of that problem. Some other alternatives and solutions that I'm looking into and can possibly hope can be used is the goat grazing. I do recall that there is a goat grazing in Puente Hills that they use for the fire to remove any of those bushes and brush clearance, and also the native landscape if it is possible. And I also did look for this other solution if it's possible to use maybe vinegar. That's a natural source and it can kill all the weeds, so there's no issues with that. And I also do recall that in 2019, Los Angeles County banned glyphosate-based herbicides like Roundup on any county property. So maybe look into this issue and look for other alternatives to use. I mean, there's goat grazing, like I said, and native landscape, which can make La Habra Heights even more beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
if you would want me to discuss my history with goats, I can.
You got 30 seconds.
They're bad. And I say that only half jokingly. Goats don't eat what you want them to eat. It's a great idea. I mean, I grew up on a farm and stuff, but I've tried to use them in multiple cities. And unless you're in an incredibly almost vertical landscape where they could have some useful ability, they're not an economic or useful way to resolve these types of problems.
Okay, thank you for the comments. John Dominguez?
Can I speak when the 15 and 16 items come up, or do I need to speak now?
You wanted to speak on 15 and 16?
Yeah. Do I need?
Uh,
Kind of wanted to hear what you guys were going to say first.
why don't you speak on it now?
And it's going to be short, because I don't know what you folks are going to say. But item 15, which is going to be the volunteer program, looks like it's moving forward. And to make it short, all I want to say is that when you look for a candidate, I'll apply. And on number 16, it was the Community Foundation. When this information goes to Guac Talk, if you could spell out the legalities or terms that you might be using. For example, when I asked about this to someone, the response was QCDs if folks have RDMs in the IRA. I know what our IRA meant. Everything else I looked up on the computer because I didn't know what QCDs or RDMs meant. So if this comes up during the Walk Talk information session, if you could spell out.
We'll clarify that right now. It's
Thank you.
qualified
I looked it up.
It's qualified charitable distribution.
I looked it up. Yes.
Oh, you did? Okay.
John, so that's just one way of doing it. I mean, this is a 501(c) now. So you can make direct donations that are on the bottom line of the tax return. You can make QCD transfers that are on the top line of a tax return. Rafferty has pledged to get me articles in Guac Talk and put a page up on the website to encourage, let people know what the current status is, that this is now a fully formed corporation with IRS 501(c) exemption. We have a board of directors consisting of Roy Francis, Stan Carroll, and Fred Klein, all of whom are former mayors and instrumental in the growth of the city. And Jim Pond will be the leader of the group that will seek contributions from folks around and help coordinate publicity. We intend to have the meeting with the fire chief at the end of the month. We're still going to we're scheduling it. But right now, anyone that wants to give a donation can actually literally give a donation to the La Habra Heights Community Foundation, send it to City Hall, to Rafferty or Angie's attention, and you'll have a valid thing. Now, I should mention also, because it's important, we've filed the application with the State of California Franchise Tax Board, which is the second phase of getting state exemption. But that's ministerial. They're now taking from 4 to 6 months to approve this. Once it is approved, and because it's ministerial, it'll be approved, then it'll be retroactive to the date of the IRS approval, which was January 16th. So
Okay.
any donations that come in after January 16th will be happily received, and they'll be fully tax deductible.
Yeah, thank you for that. All I'm really emphasizing is that once it goes to the public, if you can make it simple to understand for me, please.
For everyone, I think,
Okay.
yes. Thank you very much,
Thank
John.
you.
Ms. Engelhardt, you had a quick question?
Well, it was
Comment?
more, this is directed to support the fire department. We're not just forming a,
The legal purpose is to support the city of La Habra Heights in whatever way we, the council, decide. The elemental purpose is to support the fire department for capital items. So the chief will be very involved in setting the tone and the priority for how the money, once it's received, is spent.
Thank you. Sherry Carter?
Good evening. I have the same disadvantage as the gentleman in front of me. I don't know what you're going to say about 17, and so I feel like I'm repeating myself from your last budget workshop. I understand on the revenue side that we have stagnant property taxes, projected decline in oil revenue, projected decline in state and federal grant money, and I know on the expenditure side we have increased costs in street improvements, public safety, fire department. We may have an increased need in administrative staff and an overall increased operational staff, which will result at some point in a budget deficit. What I haven't seen that I think is important is when we anticipate that gap, in which accounts, how much, and what we've done to try to resolve it within those various accounts. So I hate to repeat myself from the workshop, but the materials that were attached to tonight's agenda were not overly helpful. Maybe it's because you haven't discussed it yet in a formal forum, but there were a lot of good ideas that were expressed during those workshops, the one I attended and the ones I watched on video. I don't know what you're considering, but you have a responsibility as our representatives to be very transparent in what you're looking at. And I think we have a lot of opportunities within the city to do things to improve our situation that we may not be taking advantage of. So I hope that as you move forward on discussing the budget, there will be a lot more community improvement and assistance, because there were a lot of good ideas shared in all of those meetings that we need to consider, rather than just immediately saying we had X number of people in 2016, so we need to go there now. We don't know that. We need to do a staffing review to determine how many do we need, what is our backlog, how many people do we need to resolve the backlog, how can we use AI and other technology to make a lot of those functions in a more efficient way. We don't want to hire people and repeat manual processes that create an ongoing obligation with additional staff. We want to be efficient with our monies. So my comment is that I strongly support the way that you are anticipating a shortfall. I support it wholeheartedly, and I hope that we have more discussions about what your plans are. We have opportunities, I think, with the parcels of property that the city owns to evaluate what we could do there to possibly bring ongoing revenue in, as well as many of the other things that have already been repeated. So those are my comments. I look forward to following this dialogue, these conversations, because I think this is going to be one of the most important things that you work on to save our city. So if there's anything I can do to help, I'm certainly willing to assist.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for volunteering on that. Ray Fernandez.
Good evening, council members and Mayor Bergman and staff. I'm Ray Fernandez. I live at 1930 Sharpless Drive. I want to call your attention to item 14 on the consent calendar, project updates and deadlines. And I read this short agenda report with great interest, especially the guardrail final design plans being reviewed by the city engineer. And I'm kind of curious, what guardrail is that? Is that the one that was demolished years ago by the Hacienda Golf Club. So it'd be nice to have a little bit more detail maybe on this report. What I also want to talk to you about is about the situation, ongoing situation around my property. And these comments are intended for the 3 council members that have not been to my property, Mayor Bergman and Council Lady Engelhardt have been to my property, and I appreciate you being there. So basically, about a year ago, my house was originally 6 acres, owned by Marion Knott. She gave away 5 acres around my property to Pepperdine University about 50 years ago, and then somebody bought it and then resold it recently, about a year, and he came in and he basically cut down about every tree and bush on the property and just left it there. So now I had a tremendous fire load around my property. I was very concerned about, and I'm very concerned about fires here. I even have a pump system on my pool pump to pump water out of my pool. And in case that fails in a fire, you don't have electricity, I have a gas-powered pump. So anyway, this new owner was given a notice to clean up the weeds, and he took his sweet time about it, and they did about 80% of it, and then they just stopped. So then fast forward, he graded a road through my property so he can get to one side of his property to bring a chipper. Then after that, I was away, and he graded a 170-foot road on about a 45-degree bank. I couldn't believe it. I was away. I caught it on my cameras. And the purpose of that road was so he could dig a hole for soils testing. And then he also built a 120-foot or so railroad tie retaining wall held up by rebar. So I've been working with the city manager, the fire department, and hoping something gets done. And I'm very, and now the weeds are just huge. I was standing next to some of them, they're about 8 feet tall. And it doesn't appear that this new owner is going to do anything about it. He's been giving 2 stop work orders, I'm sure many notices from the fire department. So here we are. I can't do anything about it. And I'm doubly concerned now about a fire, as we all should be in this city. I mean, look what's happened at Eaton and fire and Pacific Palisades. So I'm kind of here to ask for your help. I'm concerned. I can't cut these weeds down. I mean, how long is the city going to let this scofflaw just do whatever he pleases? I mean, I think it's time that maybe the city attorney gets involved with this. And I failed to mention the road he cut in, some of the cut is 8 feet tall. And that's 20 feet away from the corner of my property, from my pool house. So he's basically, the stability of that hill, he's very much undermined it. So I'm just here to ask for your help. I can't do anything about it. I'm worried my insurance is going to be canceled. I just recently got a survey from State Farm, and they had me take all kinds of pictures. I tried to avoid the weeds. So something's going on with my insurance company. So please help. I mean, how much more leeway are you going to give this guy? I mean, this is a great test case for a new code enforcement city attorney. So please help. Whatever I can do, I'm willing to do. But, you know, my hands are limited. I can't go trespass on his property. So that, and the last thing, that item number, the one about, the final workshop, strategic planning workshop. You know, I was there, and there's a lot of talk going on. That obviously the city costs are increasing, revenues decreasing. It's going to come a point where you don't have enough money. So you either have to increase revenue, cut costs, or put a ballot measure on to increase property taxes. I think that will be a very undesirable solution. So I'm asking you to kind of put your business hats on and figure out how to increase revenue and maybe cut spending, because this is a great city, and I'd like to keep it that way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ray. Okay, with that, we'll move into any committee comments, city council comments. Okay, we'll move into administrative reports, city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We do have a couple events coming up. Easter egg hunt will be happening at the park, and also on May 30th is the community art sale being put on by the Improvement Association. It's a great opportunity for those that have some extra items and things that they like to sell. It's a little bit hard to do it at your houses. A lot of times difficult to get to their streets and those things, so this is a good opportunity for it. But applications are out and spaces are filling up quickly, so reach out if you have an interest in that. That's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, city attorney's report.
No report.
Community development report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So in the month of February, we issued 6 building permits, took in a little over $14,000 in permit fees. We had 5 code enforcement cases that were submitted, for a total of 24 active and 1 closed. We issued 2 stop work orders, have 56 cases on the unpermitted construction list. We closed 1 case, and we took in 11 development applications and have 62 pending projects and approved 7 projects in the month of February. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions? John's got a question.
So Ray brought up the issue with the illegal grading that happened by his house. We had a second illegal grading issue that happened over off of Ardshield. What is our remedy there? I mean, the Ardshield one, I mean, that can impact that road. Obviously, Ray, I have seen yours. It's like 20 feet from his pool house.
Correct.
So what can we do? How long do we give people? I mean, I get it. The guy up there said, I'll fix it. But how long do we give them before we do something?
It ranges in time. Obviously, if like the one by Mr. Fernandez's house has a plan he's working through, obviously that's not a repair you can just go in and make overnight. It has to be engineered. Our engineers have to approve it and do it.
So on that, has that property owner actually responded back to the city with?
They have. It took some time for them to actually get in. Through all means and access, we looked for them. I actually tracked down the engineer that was on site. So that road got cut by an engineer. Trying to get from one side to the other. The engineer actually directed the grading people that were doing the testing to dig the road to the other side of the property. So I tracked down that engineer based off of the dig alerts that were out on the road. From there, the company name was always on there. So from there, then I tracked the company down, looked for the engineer that did the work, and tracked them down, tracked down the property owners from there. They had a little bit of back and forth with the engineering firm because they didn't know that was going to happen there. And obviously some back and forth to be able to get them to put together a plan. It's been looked at once and should be hopefully coming in for a resubmittal to our engineers to review to be able to make that repair. The other one on Ardshield, we haven't had a response. Somebody contacted us that knows the owner, but they haven't had direct contact with us on how they're going to make a repair to that one.
Okay. So on the do we have an open enforcement issue on that property? The one behind Ray's house?
Yes.
So next month, can we get an update on where we're at with getting that?
Yeah, we can give
grading
an update.
I'm like I said, I'm concerned about the grading, and then we can have Ryan go out and look at the.
I believe Jorgensen was out last week to take a look at what's going on out there as well.
Okay. And then on again, worried about undermining of Ardshield with the latest one. we're still trying to find the property owner?
We haven't been able to make it to the property owner of that particular property. They haven't contacted or responded to anything from us yet. Repair to that one would more than likely be some sort of receiver or abatement, which would go through a court process.
Okay. Well, again, like I said, I don't want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to fix Hardshield because of that issue, so whatever we need to do there. But I'm glad to hear that we're making progress on those others. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Fire Chief's report, please.
Yes, good evening, everyone. The month of February saw 57 calls for service. That's pretty on par, pretty average. Good things to report was the city weathered the heavy storms with no significant damage indicated. The roads were clear at all times. We did have one large tree that toppled over. It was taken care of and removed with little impact to the community. Our staffing has slowed a bit due to the lack of equipment, but still able to have a sufficient force, so much so that we took care of a small and exciting trailer fire over the weekend on Saturday. Caused a lot of interest. We had high winds that day, very above 12 miles per hour, and put a lot of smoke in the air, and also a big header. So we had a lot of people calling 911, overwhelmed the system, and we're looking into how that happened and how it'll impact us in the future. Quick action by the La Habra Heights Fire Department prevented spread, and we were able to exact a quick knockdown with a lot of help from the county. They sent a full force. They were pretty quick at getting a big response out there. So, but it was resolved very quickly, and still the cause is under investigation. That's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions of the fire department?
I do want to.
Go ahead, John.
I know she's not here tonight, but I know that Grace in our small public workshop did quite a bit of work to get the storm drains cleared before the rains earlier this year. So I do want to recognize the work that Grace and the Public Works, I think both of them, did to get all of our storm drains cleared. I also want to just take a moment while I'm on that topic to thank John Dominguez and Steve Blagden for the work that they're doing on the storm drain mapping project. I know that in my chats with Grace, she uses that information quite a bit to make sure that we're looking holistically at our storm drains. So just one more thing that our volunteers are doing in the city to help make sure that we're staying safe and getting these significant issues resolved for fairly low cost. It doesn't cost anything to do that storm drain mapping project, and yet it has significant value to the city. I know when we looked at it before, to do that, it was tens of thousands of dollars to get that work done. So I do want to thank our volunteers for the work that they put into that over the last several months.
And I want to thank Chief Martin that passed on to the guys that there was a tremendous response, that for that fire. I was over there that day, and it was really windy, so it's really good everybody got it out, and there was a lot of firefighters on the job, so pass it on to the guys. And Carol had a question.
I'd be interested to hear the result of your checking into the 911 situation. That seems pretty interesting. Maybe.
Yeah, it appears that they had the issue before. I was talking to the county, particularly Station 192 down on Harbor, and he said they had a lot of calls down to the station that normally go through the 911 system. So they're looking into it. They don't know if it was just a glitch, but with the amount of calls, if we had a major catastrophic event, I can assure you that would probably cause the system to crash, but it shouldn't have caused any kind of interruption into the 911 system. I do want to remind the people out there that please do not call the business line. That's not going to get answered right away. So 911 is still the best number to call. It's just, like I said, they're looking into the cause for that one temporary interruption in the 911 system.
That fire was visible for a long ways away, and it was very deceiving where it was located. I know there were several people that thought it was in various places throughout the Heights and even into Brea. So I'm sure there were a lot of people calling just because of how significant the initial header was that came off that fire. It was visible from across, the coastal plain going all the way out to Anaheim. So it was a significant event.
Okay, Sheriff's Department report, please.
Good evening, Deputy Sarah. The crime report has been submitted, available for any questioning. In terms of notable events, last Monday the 2nd, we had a box truck, approximately 6,000 to 7,000 pounds, coming down the southbound on the hill from Canada Sombre and Hacienda Road. The vehicle overturned and had blocked Hacienda Road, both lanes of traffic, for approximately 4 to 5 hours. The box truck had about 5,000 pounds of cheese, and we had to stand by until the company that had sent the box truck to take the contents out. In terms of that, that's the only notable thing I have to report.
And nobody was injured on that incident, is that correct?
The driver declined medical attention. However, he did sustained some scrapes and bruises.
Okay.
So how I know you're new to the city, but you'll hear this from us quite frequently. How are you doing on your commercial enforcement on both Harbor and Hacienda?
Good, sir. I have approximately 10 trucks that I've cited for the municipal code, the 6.2.20 subsection B. I'm always patrolling the predominantly Hacienda Road because it has the more posted signs. I would like to suggest putting up more signs on Harbor. I did do a drive-through. I did notice approaching Harbor on the Whittier side and then approaching Harbor on the other side, that there's not signs from the bottom of the hill, and would humbly suggest more posted signs. It gives me more leeway to pull over vehicles on Harbor, just so it's safer to do so for me because cars tend to go fast uphill and downhill.
Rafferty, last year I know when we looked at Hacienda in particular, but he reminded me of the point. We were going to talk to La Habra about possibly, and the county, about even painting the road with no trucks ahead, like painted on the road, and having more like even a lit sign that, like with flashing, have we done anything with that?
No, we haven't done anything with that one, but we can pick that one back up and look at it again.
Okay, because I mean, again, it's another cost driver, right? When we have these overweight vehicles driving on our roads, it causes those roads to degrade faster, and we're paying for them. So, okay. And then last thing I had, I know you probably can't share a lot of details, but I've had a couple calls on the issue on, where was it? I think it was over on it was the forcible rape issue. Was that someone that came into the city, or was it the person knew?
Yes, sir. I can get more details for you and circle back at a later time. As far as I know, because it was handled by a different unit that day.
Yeah.
That they were at the park, but as far as if the suspect's known, from what I have heard, yes, the female did know the male suspect, and that they were just passing by. They weren't La Habra Heights residents.
Okay.
But in terms of, I'm sorry.
Going forward, those types of issues when they come up, I mean, they're always going to be, if you could just bring the details, because
Yes.
either residents will ask questions about it, because we're a little city, right? And when you have something like that happen in our little city, people get concerned.
Of course.
So it would be good maybe next month if you can just bring a couple of pieces of information on that.
Of course.
Usually what they want to understand, was it, was it one of our residents? Was it, someone, we've had some like assaults and it was like family members. So it's always good to hear, yeah, it was not good to hear, but I mean, it's more comforting to hear, yeah, it was two family members and not someone coming into the city to commit those types of crimes.
Correct. I'll make sure to do that, sir.
Thank you.
Real quick, back to the box truck. Did that driver realize that he had no business being on that road?
I made sure to give him an earful, sir. But
Did you give him a ticket, I hope?
yes, sir. He was more worried about the ticket than anything else.
All right, yes, please keep an eye on the trucks out there.
Yes, sir.
And it's, I know that's a pet peeve of mine too, and also John, so it's, especially out here on Hacienda, it's a very dangerous road to run 18-wheelers and box trucks on. And now we had one flip over, so it's, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll move into the consent calendar. I'll read through the items and see if anybody wants to pull any items. Item 9, waive reading in full of all ordinance resolutions and meetings minutes on the agenda. Item 10, Treasurer's Report for the month of January 2026. Item 11, approval of warrant report for February 2026. 12, minutes February 9th, 2026. 13, minutes February 21st, 2026. And 14, project updates and deadlines. Council want to pull any items on those? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Ms. Engelhardt?
Yes?
John?
Yes.
Norm?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
And Brian's a yes. That's the end of the consent calendar. Okay, with that, we'll move into item 15, which is our volunteer services report, and this was agendized by Mr. Pespiza, so maybe you want to take the lead on this?
Yeah, Sue, I know that over the last couple of years, our volunteers have been increasing. We found more activities for our volunteers to participate in. And one of the things that I'd like to consider doing is thinking about coming up with a volunteer coordinator role in the city. I hate to say this, but it can be added on to someone's job description. But there's a number of things volunteers can do in the city that are probably a little bit more involved than the stuff they do today, right? So all of us are volunteers, but there's needs we have where we're filling those roles with consultants or people that are on the payroll, and I'd like to look and say, is there a way to take jobs that are suitable for volunteers to free up more time for staff to work on, the things we really need staff working on. So it's kind of a critical look inward at what we can do to save money. But also, I think we have a population that at least, four of us up here are retired. We do this, as volunteerism to the city. I think coming up with defined roles for volunteers within the city to do things like, answering the phone, working on tasks at City Hall that are defined, will make it easier to get people to want to engage. It's one thing for John to put out the plea, we need volunteers. It'd be a lot easier if he said, hey, these are the specific things we need people to do, and here's a schedule that we need them done by. I think it works better. So that's kind of what I'm throwing out there. Like I said, John has willingly come up with the plea. It's just a matter of how do we bring some formality to this so that we can, you know, invigorate the volunteerism in the city and get people to engage and possibly have some cost savings associated with it.
I guess the question I have, you've obviously talked to John Dominguez about this because he's putting these people, or
John and I have informally talked about it, but like I said, John has a list of people and they want to do stuff. They just don't, it's like, what do we get them to do? So I know, John, we said you couldn't speak, but that was what this was about. So if you want to come up and
yeah, John, come on up so you can speak to this a little
say
bit.
anything additional to this, you're more than welcome.
So instead of just talking theoreticals, to give you an example of what I'm doing now to try to get things done, I will be leaving town for the month of April. That's when the Hacienda Road cleanup happens. And that's when I would get on the Facebook site and start notifying people on the Facebook site, start emailing people in other ways, and other ways of getting a hold of them to remind them what's happening and all that. I won't be doing that because I won't be here. So I've got 3 different volunteers already who have been delegated. One's going to be doing the Facebook face of it. Another person's going to be doing the emailing part of it. Another person's going to be updating the online spreadsheet of who responded to who's going to be showing up. And we'll be generating a PDF to give to Grace so she can have a roll call who's going to show up. Apparently, from what I hear from the chairman of the EPC committee, he wants that list of who volunteered for the cleanups to give to Grace or to check with Grace because I haven't gotten the explanation clear. Something that has to do with giving credit to the city for the people who volunteer. I'm not quite sure. I'm hazy on that. But I know there's a connection between the EPC, that list, and Grace, and getting it done and giving it to Grace. So that list will be generated. So that's what's happening with that. Another project, speaking of the storm drains, is that I'm getting to the point that I need to finalize the database of the storm drains. So I'm looking for people from that list of volunteers that signed on through the city website, trying to find 2 people who can do database entry for me. I'll be hosting the data entry database on my hosting space, and they'll be signing on to that hosting space with my permission to modify the database to add on information. So these are tasks that are already happening. So these are the tasks that, if you can coordinate better, that's even better for me. And I'm getting to the point that I need to start delegating things because there's other people who are on that list right now. And yes, we are averaging 1 new person every 2 weeks. It's been consistent. So right now we're up to 18 people. So 52 weeks in a year. So I mean, 25, 26 people. We're getting closer to that in 6 months. So it's getting there. So there's other people on the list, for example, that want to adopt a road. So they just want to be able to take care of whatever. Other folks are volunteering for graffiti, reporting graffiti problems, and things like that. So it just needs the final coordination, and we're there. We just need your input.
All right, thank you, John.
Okay.
So your vision on this?
So, you know, I would like to get the council aligned on how we begin to formalize a volunteer program in the city. So John has done like a lot of the heavy lift here, right, of getting people to volunteer. And I think we're seeing a response, right? I was a little worried at first that maybe we might not get a lot of response, but we're getting a pretty significant response of people that are willing to come help the city do certain things, whether it's picking up trash every quarter or whether it's being part of a more formal graffiti abatement team that can go out and do things. I mean, that's all things that save the city money. We're not paying someone to go do that work. So I just think that as a council, we should possibly direct the city manager to say, hey, look, whether it be, I hate to add stuff onto Grace or I hate to add stuff onto Angie or other people on staff, but playing a more active role in helping John coordinate the volunteers and coming up with specific activities for these volunteers to do and tracking those activities, I think are going to make us more successful in this space, but also it's, Norm, you chime in here too, because as a volunteer, it's one thing to raise your hand and say, I want to volunteer. It's another thing to be saying, here's what we really need you to do, and here's the training, or here's the tools, or here's the capability to go do it. So I just don't want to leave these people hanging, because people get disenfranchised if they're not engaged. I know John spends a lot of his time engaging with these people. He just went, he went through a bunch of tasks that he does to make sure that, like, for example, our quarterly cleanups are successful. I just think that we're at a point now where we're encouraging volunteerism in the city, that we should look at how do we formalize it as part of a city function. Or if there's not an appetite to do that, then...
Carol's got a question.
Well, I've been working a little bit behind the scenes with, the first thing is we don't want to, the idea was not to give staff more responsibility or take up staff's time. So I've been working a little bit with John in the background. He does everything, but we do have, he's created an application and it has several potential jobs on there. And some of the people are volunteering for some of the jobs. So maybe you could help add to that potential list rather than, what we don't want is to add burden to staff. And volunteers, many are well-meaning and many are wonderful, but then you can't always count on them always to show up. So how would you, what Brian and I went to a meeting at the park where there were 4 ladies there and they had volunteered to be sort of communications. John set up the meeting and he selected, of the volunteers that had signed up, these ladies had said, we'll help with communication. I'm gonna call it that. So it's at that point, and then we need to, somebody needs to think up more jobs, I guess. We do have on there, look for graffiti, look for crooked signs, look for the blue dots in the road. Maybe you can think of some more functions that the volunteers could do.
Wouldn't it be one pathway to find out and put in John's database the specific skills that these people believe they have? Until everybody's can be a clerical person, if they can count. But at the end of the day, some people have probably skills that could be helpful in things like public relations, in terms of, I'd love to see some of these folks get involved with the community foundation in spreading the word and encouraging people. It's obviously our responsibility to provide the materials to explain that, but I'm just wondering, I've always thought that there were people in this city that have remarkable skills and we just don't know what they are. And so if, to the extent that John's database is carrying their people, they should be, I think, encouraged to say, well, I have a particular interest in this, or I have particular skills. Come on up, John.
It's not really a database, it's an online form that people fill out. It's at the city website, and there's a box there for special skills or any additional skills. Yeah, some people are putting down languages, database, what's some other stuff they put down there already? There's some other ones I can't remember, but there's a section already for additional skills that they may have that I may not have thought of myself. So there's something there to begin with.
I'm not sure where to begin. Basically, the last line on the background states, however, due to administrative limitations and the need for staff oversight, the program was eventually discontinued, which is another way of saying that we had volunteers at one time, but for that, for among other reasons, we recently have fewer volunteers is because they weren't valued. And this not only refers to volunteer work done by working in the office and with staff, but even the sheriff's volunteers on patrol was not valued and was quite frankly discouraged. When I joined the VOPs in shortly after 9/11, there were 21 volunteers on patrol, trained, supervised, and assured by the sheriff department. We carried no guns, no arrest powers, no ticket powers, just patrolled the city. We generally had 2 patrols a day. And we were the kind of the eyes and ears. We were kind of a force multiplier for the real deputies. And shockingly enough, this program that was not valued by the people who ran the city at one time. So basically, one by one, we all dropped out because we felt we weren't valued, and it was actually made quite clear that we weren't valued. We also, unfortunately, the only reason I go on with this is we need to realize that there's still some of that history there that we have to overcome. We have to show we value our volunteers. And there's other programs which EPC is developing, encouraging people to join the CERT program, the Community Emergency Response Training, which again is free. The training is free, but in case of emergency, they're available if nothing else to help themselves and their next door neighbors. And perhaps if we get to the point, perhaps function as a team. But there's quite a number of volunteer opportunities that other cities are taking advantage of. Quite frankly, I was rather shocked over the years how, when this stuff started happening, how La Habra Heights, which is really built on volunteerism, started taking an attitude that we don't value volunteers anymore. Thank goodness for the current council, for people like John Dominguez, people like the people on the Roads Committee, the members of the Emergency Preparedness Committee and so forth, who are working hard. And of course, obviously in the Improvement Association, the upcoming events of the Easter egg hunt and so forth, that we are really overcoming this problem that we lost a lot of our volunteers because we need them badly. I appreciate the work that John Dominguez and many of the volunteers are doing to try to bring back the spirit of volunteerism in La Habra Heights. And I will do whatever I can to support you in this. Thank you very much.
In order to move this along, why don't...
I just haven't, Norm, perhaps if you think could you contact a couple other cities and find out how they're using volunteers? Get back to us?
Yeah, absolutely, La Mirada. I'm still, I've been affiliated with their emergency response team, their advanced CERT team for about...
But I think we're looking for stuff other than emergency response. That's great.
Well, yes, they have quite a well-developed volunteer system in La Mirada, for example, which I'm very familiar with. I will definitely get back with you on that.
I think we're looking for a council member, and maybe that'll be Norm over there, to coordinate with John and the city manager and
be glad to
pull this together. Is that right? Is that okay, John?
Anybody but Norm. No. I'd be honored to work with you, John.
Thank you. I'll be honored to work with you.
I think we need somebody, and it sounds like Norm's going to do that, to pull all this together.
Again, I'm sorry for the kind of the going on and on about why things went wrong and so forth, but the problem is things can get better. The will to do so is better. The council's in favor of this. We can correct the mistakes we made, overcome them, and get better. Thank you very much.
Okay. This was agendized by you, John. Do you have anything else on it?
No, I just wanted to bring it up, see what we could do, make sure that there's visibility to it, and I'll probably bring it up again in a few months.
That's fine. Sounds like Norm's going to work on this, and he'll work with John and city manager and try to pull it together. Carol, you had a question? Comment? Okay, we're done with 16. And there's no need to vote on anything for that. We'll move into item 16, La Habra Heights Community Foundation. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item was already touched on a little bit earlier by Mayor Pro Tem Steffler. City Council has established a community foundation, a nonprofit, to be able to assist with being able to provide the capital improvements, looking specifically at fire department and needs and things that are there, a way for, we've seen a lot of residents recently like to try to donate, especially donate things for the fire department. We don't necessarily have a way as a city to be able to accept those donations without coming to council and then accepting those donations. This provides an opportunity for those residents that would like to make donations to be able to make those donations and also receive the benefit of a tax donation as part of that process to it. Mayor Pro Tem Steffler has worked pretty closely with some past mayors here, and specifically Roy Francis knows, he's a career firefighter and knows a lot of what the fire department does need and those things. So he looked at some key players to be able to come in, and will be the ones that oversee that that nonprofit. They'll be there, have their own board of directors, and they will review and do distributions of funds as they see fit to that one. And so that's a great separation of those things there. I'll maybe turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Steffler if there's anything else you'd like to add related to the Community Foundation.
Anything else, Greg?
Just a couple of things. So bank account open yet?
Not yet. We're working on that one right now.
In 2 weeks, Ralph. Bank account shouldn't take 2 weeks to set up. We can't receive money in a meaningful way until we have a bank account set up. That's one. Secondly, my hope is, as I said, that by the end of the month, this month, we should have a general meeting of all the people that are shareholders in this issue, including the fire chief and any council member that wants to attend, and assign responsibilities on an ongoing basis so I can back away from it and let it run by itself. Your board's in place. You have the head of the community worker group in Jim Pond. So it's really, from my perspective, I've got to hand it over, and I want to hand it over this month. That way we can start taking money in. I mean, my target always was that in July we have a roughly $150,000 non-budgeted turnovers for the fire department that they have to have because they go out of life. So we've got to get 150 grand in that by July, so we can buy those with those funds. So the slower we go on in getting the PR out to people, but you can't really ask them to donate money until you have a bank account open to put the money in. So realistically, that should be a very, very high priority. I mean, it shouldn't. If you want me to do it, I'll do it. But at the end of the day, that's got to be done first, and then following right on its heels, Guac Talk and the website up and running, and so people can understand. I mean, I was simply amazed when John sent me a note and said, "Greg, when is it going to be ready to put money in?" So the people that know about it are prepared to help the fire department and help the city. We just have to have the balance of the stuff in place quickly. So that's my ending comment.
We can use U.S. Bank, right? Where just another bank account through the same banking facility?
Yes, we're trying to work with U.S. Bank to be able to establish the account with them. So same banking out.
I guess Angie can open up a bank account this week.
And then also looking at the auditor's firm about being able to make sure it's audited as well.
Okay. All right, so let's get a bank account open then. And anything else for that? We don't need to vote on anything on this, right? No, okay. With that, we'll move into item 17, which is an overview of our financial strategic planning workshop. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As we talked a little bit earlier today, the City Council undertook a series of workshops to be able to work out and get some feedback from the residents about our budgetary process, our spending, where we spend our money, and making sure those dollars go to the appropriate locations and items that are needed for the community. So through those series of workshops, we discussed the roads, fire department, law enforcement services, and city administration to be able to look at each one of those areas in particular to understand how those monies are spent, what those dollars go towards, and also like future costs and things that are need to be planned for to be able to look at those. As we made it through that process, we've heard lots of good community feedback related to staffing at the fire department, being able to make sure we have all of the equipment necessary for fire department and response to be able to go out and take care of things. We've looked at law enforcement services and the needs there, and potentially increasing some of those levels that we have today with the sheriff's department, and looking at other alternatives, either be it through like a VOP process or private security or other means to be able to provide a little more enforcement side of things for the community 24 hours a day. We looked at the administration side of it, so our city function here, our city, how we are staffed, how we spend our dollars, where those monies go. We also looked at that process, a lot of the regulatory aspect that we have to work through and operate as a community. So a lot of the behind the scenes things that aren't necessarily known or out there, all of the legislation that comes down and has to be addressed and implemented and tracked and reported through staffing at City Hall. Through all of those, we looked at some various ways to try to look at our budget. We've always been very cognizant of our budget process and that we do have limited amounts of revenue that come into the city. So no sales tax, very limited sales tax comes here. We're primarily based on property tax. So those dollars that come in through property taxes, we do have a fire tax and a roads tax. That's a benefit assessment district, will go away in a couple of years. Looking at those, the other next largest revenue source that we have comes from use taxes. So it's going to be permits, franchise fees, and other things like that are the next highest level of monies that come into the community, and looking at those needs. But as we do our budget process, it's not that we are overspending. The problem becomes we know we have a limited budget, so we only do the work that we can accomplish within that budget, and we try not to over budget, and we try not to exceed those limits, which does leave a lot of work on the table that still needs to be done. As we can see with the fire department, we've had several things over there that are reaching their end of life and need to be replaced. Roads is an never-ending project of being able to repair and redo all of our roads here. The park, one of our great assets for the community, is another thing that could need a significant amount of improvements and other things done to that to help provide a better experience for our residents and community. Obviously, having appropriate staffing levels so we're not overworking our staff that we have today are some of those things that we sort of leave on the table and don't get accomplished because we work to not overspend. We've had some staff this past week that went to a finance organization conference, and I heard from lots of cities that are running into that problem where they are having to dip into their reserves to be able to make ends meet, and we try our best not to have to do that. So it's not singular to us. It's something that's being talked about widely amongst all of the cities. Another meeting I had with city managers recently, we heard the same thing, where upcoming budgets for cities are going to be very difficult and very tight. So it's trying to work and spend our dollars the best way we can and make sure that we can recoup or maximize whatever revenues we have to the fullest extent. So it's where we sort of went and left off with that workshop process, and council had some ideas to further the conversation.
Questions, comments?
So what we've learned through this whole course is that with our current assessments and with the growth of the cost of the law enforcement, we're $2.5 million down from what we should have, and the money, even the assessments we have, do not keep anywhere close to they don't even come close to covering roads and covering fire. The only option that's been offered so far that makes any level of sense is to make them fully funded and to have them adjusted annually by the cost of living. That way, we don't get overrun by pricing that's a result of inflation. And so, to me, the obvious outcome, we've tried to be massively transparent in this. I spent an entire year going through the budget and looking at every dollar we spend. I have no doubt that this is the right thing to do, and I'm prepared to do it. So we have until July to put a general tax measure on the ballot, and I believe that's what this city should do. The reality is that the numbers that we've worked through as we've gone through this for the average homeowner, it's $3.25 a week increase in your current tax burden. And what you get for that is you get a much stronger police department, and you get much more rapidly improved roads. And if that ain't worth $3.25, I'll throw in with you. So when it comes to a vote, my vote will be to bring a general tax. This will be a general tax. This won't be a specific assessment. It would be a general tax that would allow us to use it for anything that the city needs to use it for. But it's going to add about $2.5 million of cash in 2027 if it passes. And the good news about a general tax is it's a 50 plus 1. So I would think that we should get a lot more votes in favor of this, because what it gives to us, we have all these, there's so many expensive homes in this city that could be lost easily if we don't have the right firefighters, the right equipment, and people aren't in the right mood. I mean, right now we've got a great chief and a lot of wonderful people that are working in the fire department, but they need capital assets to do their job. They need it, so we've got to, so the foundation will help in the short term, but in the long run it has to be self-funding. So as hard as that is for some people to hear, I'm sorry, but that's the only result I can think is we put a general tax measure on the November ballot.
Any other comments? Ms. Engelhardt?
Well, my comment would be we have right now a road assessment, and that's due to expire. And that road assessment, and I don't like to pay taxes, but I loved having the road, part of Avocado Crest got paved, so that was good. But the road assessment that everybody's paying now is based on, 2017 estimates. And we all know that inflation has skyrocketed after the COVID money, and so that's come up for election too. So I don't know how that all fits in, but the residents need to know that the road assessment cannot stay the same because it doesn't cover the costs.
So what essentially I would think we would do is we would create a brand new tax and sunset the two existing assessments. So if the general tax were approved, the two assessments would disappear, and you'd have a single tax that would be higher than the current joint taxes, but it would meet our obligations for the next decade in keeping us even. So we'd also absolutely make sure that we put in the measure that there is an opportunity for people that cannot absolutely not afford any more money to apply for a hardship exemption, just as we saw in Measure E and in Measure W. They both have hardship exemptions. It's the obligation of the person to file a request, but that means the people that are in not strong financial straits will be protected from the additional tax.
That's good.
So it's a pretty straightforward way of doing it. Costs us more money, but I'm certainly willing to put my piece in.
As I've said before, I'm against getting rid of the existing fire tax. Does not have to be voted on, and I think that's I don't want to give that up.
John?
Yeah, I think we need to have some further discussion on this. I think I'm more aligned with Carol. I think people like to know, I think people like earmarked money. I don't think people trust politicians a lot, even though, you know, we're all residents and volunteers here and want to see the best for our city. I don't think anyone on this council has a different agenda other than, you know, looking out for this city. I mean, that's, I think, what we all run on. I like Carol, you know, the fire tax, I like the fire tax because it's earmarked. It goes to the fire department. I agree, Carol, that I think we really need to take a hard look at what we need to do with the road assessment. I'm worried that oil in particular is such a variable, and I know people like certainty in their taxes, but I think we need to figure out how we tie part of the road tax to oil, because that's the biggest, when you look at the variables that impact what it costs for us to do the roads, since almost all of our roads are asphalt, it's that oil component, and that's what keeps, you know, oil component cost tacked on to labor, and I don't know how we can come up with I don't know if there's a way to bring those two things together to make the road tax just literally pay for what the roads actually cost us to maintain. That to me, I think, is really sellable, right? Because you got the fire tax and it's earmarked for the fire department, and you've got the road tax, and the road tax is the one that's going to be a lot more variable than the fire tax. But it would be good if both of them, I mean, I don't want to lose the fire tax, but again, the variable over there is labor. And so I don't know if there's a way to incorporate some type of index to labor and index to oil, in both of these, so that they're self-correcting, right? As oil goes up, the road tax goes up. If oil prices go down, you can, you know, the next year or the next assessment can come down, so that we don't have to keep, you know, dealing with the variables that present themselves and that create a lot of the...
I doubt that's possible, but we can certainly look at it.
So, Mayor, in response to Councilman Pespiza's question, yes, you can use different CPI indexes for assessments and taxes, and if they're approved, they can follow upon those year by year. There are a multitude of different types of CPIs. You can do CPI, you know, plus a certain percentage. Like there's a trash hauler CPI. There's all these. I don't know specifically if there's like an oil market CPI, but that could, as a concept, if that's where you want to go, it could work legally.
So how can we, I mean, we don't have a lot of time.
Okay, but John, the one thing Brian and I find this hard to believe, but apparently you only need a 50% vote for a general tax.
Yep.
And a specific tax, you need 66 and 2/3.
You need 2/3.
It ought to be the other way around, frankly.
Yeah, that's what we thought too.
It is a bit counterintuitive, but that is the law.
So that's a problem with what I think Greg's concerned about is the...
I know, like I said, I get worried about a general tax and the ability to get a general tax across the finish line.
You know, probably we would want to kind of consider having a citizens watchdog committee formed as we take this to ballot, so that there is a number of citizens in the city that are not elected officers, they're just people that watch the output, how the money is spent. I mean, that's been done in a lot of cities. The model is in existence today. That could be done to watch but the pure facts are just, I mean, they're inescapable.
Well, I mean, our job is to watch the money. I mean, we spend a lot of time looking at the budget and looking at money.
We do, but we should be we should be watched ourselves. So if you formalize that,
That's coming up in November, by the way.
I don't, at the end of the day, right now, neither of the assessments has any built-in modulator that'll catch up with inflation. They're ludicrous, you know, not just because we underestimated, but because inflation's gone crazy, but because the mechanism in the fire assessment it barely keeps up with the 1/10 of inflation. So
Well,
it's terrible.
What concerns me is we're tapping into our reserves to keep our roads paved. That concerns me, that we're tapping into reserves to just keep the roads paved. That tells me the road assessment is not keeping up with the actual cost of keeping roads done. And there's nothing, I mean, there's very little we can do as a city to offset those costs because they're, I mean, the cost, what did I hear, is $1 million we're having to tack in for this latest roads project? $1.5 million. You're not going to make that up by cutting positions or making the fire department more efficient. It's too big of a number for our little city. So, you know, I want to make sure that as we go forward, we're using like real numbers, data. People need to understand that it's not 100,000, it's not 200,000. It's this roads project, it's $1.5 million coming out of our reserves. We cannot, that is not sustainable. And so you need a solution. And, you know, I didn't hear anyone in the workshop say, don't stop paving the roads. I did hear someone in the workshop say, get rid of your fire department, just do paramedics only. But I mean, the event last weekend kind of, I think, said probably not a good idea because your guys were there in a matter of minutes and LA County showed up when LA County showed up. I mean, I happened to be on Whittier Boulevard when this event went on, and I saw our guys leave, and probably 7 or 8 minutes later, I saw the county minutes rolling by. And in a wind event, 7 and 8 minutes mean a big deal. So I'm not willing to compromise on our fire department. So
We're not going to fix this tonight.
I know.
So why don't we?
But I want to make sure because we're already in March.
I know. Why don't we roll this forward, and with more structured along the line of how that tax is going to work for the next.
Before you roll it forward, can I say a few words?
Yes.
It's just good old Norm. Anyway, in the length of the meeting, just a couple of quick comments. Number one, is there any reason why we can't keep the fire tax and also have the general tax from which we can supplement the fire tax revenue as needed? Just because we have a fire tax doesn't mean we can't take some money from the general tax to supplement it, does it?
You can use the general tax however you want, Norm.
That's my understanding, so I see no reason to get rid of the fire tax on that basis. It doesn't interfere with the general tax at all. It actually helps it.
I think what Greg was alluding to was he was trying to come up with a way to make it more appetizing for residents. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
I understand
Greg,
that.
but I mean, it simplifies it. And
okay.
Because they were 2/3 votes, and because they were underfunded to begin, and because they don't have any cost escalator, neither of the two assessment districts work, and you know you can't very well. I assume you could amend them, but it would still take a 2/3 vote. The simple thing is to create a brand new tax that covers what we're currently getting from those two assessment districts plus the overages that we're paying out of the general fund. And then at the same time, the two assessment districts sunset, and the money drops into the general fund for use, and it would be in perpetuity because you'd have enough money to constantly fund, because you'd be adjusting it for inflation. You'd have enough money to constantly fund the legitimate growth in the cost of repairing our roads. You'd actually have more money to repair the roads, dramatically more. And we could, because there's roads we just can't get to. I mean, it's...
Well, that's assuming the general tax passes, the general tax. Basically, I think people tend to be in favor of knowing where the money goes, specifically as opposed to trusting a city council to do what they ought to be doing. I don't see the existence of the fire tax as being a detriment to the proposed general tax.
Well,
I see, quite frankly, the opposite. The other question I have is, and I'll get this going pretty quickly. That 325 that's per day per household. That's about $1,200 a year, roughly. How is a household defined? Is a household for a parcel tax, or would an ADU be a separate household, or how would that be defined?
there's, I've prepared but not circulated a memo on the options we have. There's a couple of simple options. One is it's simply based upon square footage of the residence. That's a little painful for. But so there's another option that I personally favor, and that is there's a base cost of X dollars that applies to every single residence, and then there is a gradient increase based upon the size of the residence, because with respect to the bigger the residence, the more cars. There's an argument. There's an attachment to the improvement of the roads. With the fire department, the bigger a house is, the more expensive it is, the more it's gated and difficult to get in. There's a strong argument that the larger the house, it supports that. So I would like, my gut tells me that would be, and we'll have to discuss this in open session, but that would be my gut, that it would be a base cost, and we would then, based upon you don't want to do appraised value because that's.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
You don't want to do appraised value because it's all over the board. The new houses get killed on that, and the people that, like me, that have been there for 25 years, we skate with a big house and a big property. So that's not really quite fair, but it is fair probably to do a blended one, where there's a base, and then a growth factor for the $1,500 house, the $3,000 house, the $3,000 square foot house, the 5,000 square foot house, and the 7,000 and up. And even in the fire code today, we differentiate up above the 7,000 square foot house.
Yes, and quite frankly, that's surprisingly enough, that's the thought I've been trying to develop myself, precisely that type of thing, basically. Have a base cost that everybody has to pay for paramedic service and so forth, regardless of what size your house is. But if your house is 20,000 square feet and someone else's house is 1,500 square feet, the person is receiving a greater benefit for not having their house burned down.
We're not going to fix this tonight. No, we're not going to.
Well, actually, we
just hold on, Norm.
That's actually helping to fix it.
No, we need to agendize this for the next meeting. Obviously, we're working toward a tax and how we're going to do the tax. So could you put that on the agenda for next month? Because this is obviously all we're talking about out of this strategic workshop is a tax. So let's put that on the agenda to talk about the tax and how we're going to implement it on the agenda next month. I've got one more item. As we move into that, there's been discussion, of course, that our assets and everything, and that was brought up, and we need to maximize, all our revenue stream. And I know we couldn't do anything with it because we didn't have an approved housing element, but we do have the property up there on Hacienda and West. So put that on the agenda for discussion next month on what we want to do with it, if we want to develop it, and how we want to develop it.
Could I also request that the people who live within a couple hundred feet or so be notified, who live within a couple hundred feet of that property, be notified, because that's going to affect them the most. I'd like to receive their input on this also.
Well, it's probably a little bit premature on that, but we'll definitely get the notification out, when we start moving forward with anything.
So, in preparation for that, for the staff report, can we also get Todd to incorporate some of what we could do with like a road assessment if we just choose to go down that route, around what indexes we could use, how we can index a tax to labor or to.
No, I think all of those elements should be discussed at our next meeting because we can do that.
I just don't. I want to have something in the staff report so that it's more vetted.
Okay.
And just trying to do it in real time here.
So, I mean, for example, I mean, you can be creative. In Yorba Linda, we have a landscape maintenance district because the whole city is basically a big HOA. CPI doesn't cover water and prevailing wage for the contractors we have to hire, so we do CPI plus 3% to give us enough funds.
Can you just work, I mean, that's perfect. Can you just work some of those examples of how other cities are doing this into the staff report?
Sure.
So that we've got I just want something tangible to look at when we sit down, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. I've got to believe other people have solved this problem. Thank you.
Any other comments on this? Okay, so Rafferty, you clear on what we're rolling this into? And, okay, with that, we don't need to vote on that because we're just moving that forward. So with that, we'll move into...
Mayor, could we get clarity though, because I was confused. Are we giving notice for the West property for the next meeting?
We're going to put it on the agenda to discuss.
I mean, we legally don't have to give notice, but I know Norm said he wanted to give notice to 200 people within 200 feet. Are we being directed to do that? Just so Raf knows.
Well, I think it's premature myself, but I'll listen to the rest of the council because we haven't even, all we're doing is bringing it up for discussion.
We just want, tell us what to do.
Other council members?
I mean, the agenda is public. I mean, we can put it in Guac Talk. I don't want to spend the money to have staff do that work at this point. I mean, if we have a list of stuff that we want to, to do, then I think it's time. But I mean, put it in Guac Talk. Put it on whatever free sources we have that we're going to be discussing it. Put it on the agenda. I mean, that would be my proposal rather than spending hundreds of dollars getting notices out.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go knock on the doors myself and tell them. How's that?
You can do that. Okay, so we're clear on that? Todd, you're all clear on the indexing and all that, so you'll check into some of that? All right. With that, we'll move into item 18, a staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So item before you tonight is a request. So city does own a few vacant parcels that we do brush clearance on them. Obviously, one we just spoke about, Hacienda West, is probably one of the more visible ones that we have. Through that, annually we go out and do brush clearance to be able to make sure the weeds are abated. As we've done that, we have not put any weed killer sprays, herbicides down on those properties. So this one is a request to come to council with the authorization to spray herbicidal treatment on the properties to help prevent further growth on those properties, which would then ultimately lead to having to clear the property less, is really what it is. We built into our landscaping agreement, we have it in there to be cleared twice a year. We typically will do it 3 to 4 times a year on average, depending on weather and rain, to be able to clear the city-owned parcels for that, which is Hacienda and West, the backside of the park and across the street from the park between East and West, and also the median areas that are along Fullerton, East Road, and East Skyline Drive. Over there are the ones that the cities do maintain. As part of that, we did reach out to our brush clearance contractors to ask for quotes from the vendors. Out of that, we only received one quote from Coleman Landscapes, which would be for $1,000 to be able to apply a weed killer type treatment to those parcels to help prevent further growth and maybe having to clear those parcels less. So really the impact for this would be, $1,000, and if the council moves to authorize us to be able to do this, would be to authorize a budget amendment to increase the account of 101-450 PWD-6960 by $1,000 for the herbicidal spray and the city-owned vacant parcels, and authorize staff to schedule Coleman Landscape to complete the work. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Questions, staff? Sounds good.
I know there's some environmentally friendly options. Have we asked them to explore those? So for example, we hopefully are using like a pre-emergent so that we don't even have to spray. Pre-emergent you do one time a year and it stops weeds from growing, and there are several corn gluten I mean, there are some very capable pre-emergents out there that I know my company uses because we have environmental concerns that are really effective. So can we explore those with this company?
Sure, we can definitely explore those.
I mean, even if it costs a couple dollars more to use something that isn't, I mean, there's a horrible story on the Facebook page about 2 owls that were found dead in someone's yard, and it was just terrible. And it looks like, you know, they got into some type of vermin that was that someone was using poison to kill the rats. Well, these 2 owls got a rat, and a bonded couple died in someone's yard. So, you know, if we can, even if it costs a few dollars more, can we look at using a environmentally friendly solution?
Definitely, we could work with the contractor to.
Okay. So, I mean, can we modify the request to say, let's explore using environmentally friendly products to use on the city land?
John, you can give me a motion.
All right.
I just have one. What does it cost to clear it?
Yeah.
I believe the cost to do the clearing right now that they just did was like just under $10,000.
Yeah, I mean, it's significant. I mean, it's like,
$10,000?
They were the low bid.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that for one time?
That was just the clearance that we just did right now that happened over the last like week was just under $10,000 to do that clearance.
Don't you know nobody in the Heights that has some weed whackers that would?
So, I mean, that's another thing that I've asked, I've asked Rafferty to explore. The city owns a skid steer. There are implements you can put on the front of the skid steer to do clearance work. So I've asked Rafferty to explore that also. But yeah, I mean, that's why I was the one that kind of said, hey, you know, I know my company has a lot of land. We spray weeds all the time. On federal land too, we spray. And there are requirements to use environmentally safe, you know, herbicides and pre-emergents in that space. So, I mean, if we want to continue, I'm ready to make a motion if we want, but.
Let me just comment that I had the same vendor, Coleman's Landscape, use herbicides on our property for 3 years, and they're all environmentally acceptable for us. My guess is that Coleman would be using the same thing on this particular piece. Plus, you have a blue line stream there. So my understanding is that the assignment is that he sets back 60 feet or 60 feet from the blue line stream, and the herbicide does not get anywhere close to the blue line stream.
Yeah.
So in reality, it's probably more like what we should say is we should specify that should be used and that there should be the necessary clearance from any blue line stream.
Yeah, the whole reason this is on the agenda, again, when he told me how much that was costing, looking at trying to save the city money, I'm saying, why, I get it, we might need to cut it once, but we should then spray it with the pre-emergent and stop the future weed growth so that we don't spend this money.
And I believe that's what's been done. That was done on my property. So.
Well, he's got a 65-foot buffer on the blue line stream right here for anything, for any applications.
So yeah, I make a motion that we authorize the budget amendment to increase the amount by, you know, $1,000. However, also ensure that that amount is sufficient to ensure that it's an environmentally friendly product.
You better put more money in there in your motion because we're changing the herbicide.
So let's do $2,500.
Okay.
And that the herbicide used is environmentally friendly, that we also explore using pre-emergent, not just a herbicide, so that we're not going back and constantly having to spray, because herbicides only kill what's there.
I mean, maybe it'll only be 1,000, but you're authorized up to. That doesn't mean we spend 25. Right. Okay, do I have a second?
Second the motion.
Carol?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Norm?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
And Brian's yes. Okay, so we got clear direction on that. Okay, we move into item 19, our housing element progress report, staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item before you tonight is our annual report for the housing element. It's a progress of how we do as we work through our housing element and the programs that are in it. There are some tables attached to your staff report. This is a spreadsheet that comes from HCD, so it's not one that we create and we're sort of stuck with the format of it. It's a little bit of an interesting format, so excuse me as I try to like work through it. It's small enough that I need glasses to be able to look at it. But this just sort of tracks where we go and what we've done as we kind of move through it. So essentially, this past year was a big year. We were able to make it all the way through the process and have our housing element certified. So it's the first time we've hit that certified housing element status for it, which did include programs that we will report on. But as I'll walk you through the tables here. So table A is the housing development application submitted. So this one focuses mostly on like planning applications that came in for new housing units. So it's going to be a mixture of both like new single-family residences, which we have seen submitted, and ADUs. So that is Table A, lists all out those applications that came in. Table A2 is an expanded version of that. It has the applications that came in, what was submitted, and then also looks at where it made it through the building permit process, so ones that have building permits and those that have received certificates of occupancy, which means they have completed all their inspections and are safe to occupy. So that's Table A2, kind of walks you through all the varying stages as those make it through that process that we get all the way to the very end. We get to Table D. These are permitted units for affordability. So this kind of looks at some of the units that we've had over the past few years. So if you can look in 2025, so one building permit issued for very low income and 3 for non-deed restricted above moderate. So those are applications for housing units that were issued in 2025. Table C is the sites that are identified to be rezoned or accommodate shortfalls in the housing needs or no net loss. We completed all of our rezonings as part of the housing element process, so we currently don't have any properties that need to be rezoned. Everything has been rezoned as was required through that particular process. The next is Table D. So this kind of walks through the programs that are in the housing element. So there are several programs that are in our housing element related to various things in implementation tools that we need to be able to do throughout the process. And in there, it kind of walks us through where we've done, what we've looked at. I'll kind of come back to this one in a minute here, make it through the rest of them. Table E, this is commercial development bonus. We don't have any development bonuses that were issued in 2025. There was no units rehabilitated or acquired for preservation related to affordability and affordable housing. Table F2 is the above moderate income units that were converted. We didn't purchase any, or there was no units that were converted from regular above moderate to affordable housing. The next one is locally owned lands, including the housing element sites that have been sold, leased, or otherwise disposed of. We haven't sold or disposed of any property in 2025. Table H is locally owned surplus land sites. City has not identified any properties that we own that are surplus sites that would need to go through that sale process. Table J is student housing. We don't have any student housing in Habra Heights. Table K is a tenant preference policy. So this is sort of like a rent control policy. We do not have a rent control policy. Table L is historical resources, so anything that was added, it's a newer table. Any historical things that were designated and the type of designations that were done to it. We didn't designate any historical sites in 2025. The next one is LEAP reporting, which is a grant that HCD offers, which at the time we were not able to take advantage of because you have to have certified housing element to get there. Now that we do, we are looking at the possibility of being able to tap into some of those funds here in the future. I'll kind of go back to Table D because this kind of focuses and highlights on some of the things that we have done throughout the past year on the various programs. So we have 11 programs in our housing element, and we have been going through the process of working through, 12 programs in the housing element and going through it. So as each housing program is in this spreadsheet, so that's why it's multiple pages. And as part of that, it lists the objective of it. So every one of the programs in the housing element has an objective tied to it. Then we look at when is it meant to be done as part of the housing element, the cycle that we are in. We're currently in the 6th cycle of the housing elements. Whether it is a continuous program, something that has a defined deadline, once you did it, you did it. Also, some of the implementation details, so this highlights some of the work that we have done related to that. And then we look at units and other things that are attached to it as far as like things that have come out of that one. The biggest one to look at is in program H3, which is related to accessory housing units, so ADUs. So in the past year, there's been 8 of those that have gone through the process. So we're able to highlight some of those things. As part of that, I know Councilmember Engelhardt has been working with a few resident volunteers on some other parts to this Table D in our implementation process, and she's provided some additional information to go into the table to be able to supplement and also highlight some of the other things that our residents and some of the volunteers have been doing related to housing element implementation. So that is our table and our program. Our recommendation is that the council discuss the 2025 housing element annual progress report, accept the report, and then direct staff to file it with HCD. If you have any questions, happy to answer them for you.
Questions? Ms. Engelhardt?
I have a comment. Yeah. So I don't know if anybody read this, but so in our housing element, which is close to an inch thick, there's Roman numeral 5, which that is what Table D addresses. And Roman numeral 5 gives our city about 71 different tasks, which involve everything from putting a pamphlet in the lobby to having somebody from a low-income housing group speak to the council once a year, to putting some information about discrimination on the website. So there's these 71 jobs. So a couple of people have volunteered, and I'm trying to take the load off staff to do some of the more mundane ones. And so we had started doing work, and that's what this paper that says supporting documents ? That's some of the work we've been doing. So to me, I actually watched a video on this, and our guy Fidel was one of the presenters. But anyway, they're pretty adamant they want it in by April 1st, and you can change it. And I can't imagine what a city like Los Angeles does with Table D, or Yorba Linda. I don't know, unless they don't have 71 tasks. So that's your government at work.
This is a wonderful example for the citizens of the city of an unfunded mandate that wastes countless hours filling out an asinine form that reports on something that they really won't read anyway.
And when you watch this video, they actually, for Table D, all they did was talk about the ADU parts. So that's what, but they got all these other 68 tasks. It's just amazing. But anyway, a couple of people have volunteered, and we're chugging along in the back under Rafferty's supervision. So I just am suggesting we add this, so we send them as much stuff that they won't read as possible. And if anybody reads it, they'll know we tried.
So we got enough in this to be able to send it?
Yes, definitely. With the additional information, we can incorporate that in and get it sent off.
Do I have a motion there, Ms. Engelhardt?
I move what do we do? Approve it and ask that it be filed with HCD by April 1st.
Second.
With the additional information that you provided?
Yes.
Okay, and you second the, so I have a motion and a second. Carol?
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Norm,
Yes.
Greg,
Absolutely.
and Brian's a yes. So I guess you'll work on incorporating what you put in this into the housing element when we send it up there. Okay, I guess we're through with the housing element, at least for a while.
Don't count on it.
Okay, with that, we'll move into item 20, individual council member information items and/or required meeting attendance reports. You got anything to report?
So I have an informational item. And I'll go back to the comment I made when we were talking about the herbicides. Folks, we live in a rural environment, and I get that I think everyone in the Heights fights the vermin issue up here. But please, God, if you're using poison, be really careful with how you use poison in the Heights. It was just the most devastating thing to see the pictures that were in the Facebook group page on the owls that were killed by the misuse of poison. So if you're using poison to kill rats, you've got to go out every day, every morning, and pick the dead rats up. You can't leave them out because other animals eat those rats. And they're beneficial animals. I can't tell you, a nesting pair of owls, how many rats and gophers and other vermin they eat. And so you're really doing yourself a disfavor if you're not careful with how you use poisons up here in the Heights. My belief is there's no place for them, but I get that in some cases it's the only option for some people. But please be responsible if you're using poisons for vermin control in the Heights.
Anything else? Public comments not on the agenda? Okay, you got 1 minute.
Yes. Just a quick question. What's the status with the citrus and avocado crust delineators? Are they going to be put up?
City engineer is in the process of, all their submittals are in. He's making one change to the delineator, so as soon as they resubmit that item, he can sign it and we'll have them installed.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, with that, I have one announcement, a very sad thing. We lost Walt Boveringer, who was a 61-year resident with been here forever. Super into avocado growing, had a lot of avocados, and his spouse is Carolyn. They're heavily involved in the Improvement Association and Meals on Wheels. So if you happen to see Carolyn, make sure you give her a hug. It's sad when we have to report on our long-term residents that we've lost them, and we lost Walt. So in his memory, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.